In February of this year, we announced Boston's Reparations Task Force, a multi-generational collective of historians, attorneys, artists and activists, students and scholars. They're leading our city's efforts to reckon with our historical involvement in the transatlantic slave trade, the institution of slavery, and how that legacy impacts our communities today. Step one is telling that story clearly, with the honesty and rigor it deserves. That's why we're releasing a request for proposals to produce a report over the next year on the history and legacy of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade in Boston from 1620 to the present. We know that in 1638, a ship called the Desire docked in Boston Harbor, bringing the first enslaved African people to our city. By 1720, nearly 1 out of every 9 people living in Boston, more than 1,500 total, were enslaved. We know that in 1781, the Massachusetts Supreme Court ruled to abolish slavery, but Boston continued to serve as a commercial hub for the transatlantic slave trade. And in tracing the arc of Boston's story, we see slavery's legacy persist. We see it in our history of redlining, in the racial wealth gap, and in staggering disparities in health outcomes and more. But in addition to chronicling what we know, we want to discover what we don't. So we're asking historians to help fill gaps in our knowledge and tell this story in a way it's never been told before, to help us break new ground and provide a full account of the city of Boston's role in the transatlantic slave trade, the related economies, and how the economic, social, and political impacts of that involvement show up today. The resulting work will directly inform the recommendations our Reparations Task Force will provide. For centuries, Black leaders, organizers, educators, scholars, and community members have been shouldering the work of healing alongside the unflinching work of justice, mending the holes in our history and paving the way for prosperity. Many of these leaders molded their vision for a better world right here in Boston, from Belinda Sutton, Malcolm X, and the Reverend Dr. King, to the late State Senator Bill Owens, who first called for reparations in the Massachusetts legislature in 1989. All of us at the city honor their struggle to hold our institutions accountable. We recognize the urgency of this work, and we follow in their footsteps today as we commit to understanding and addressing the full legacy of slavery in Boston.